Hey guys, what's up? Ashley of Naath here to do a reaction video to Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. It was a really good episode overall, and I actually was on the edge of my seat the entire time, screaming no too many times to count because I couldn't tell who was getting taken down by the walkers, and I was super impatient for the dragons to come because I didn't want any of the characters beyond the wall to die, and it was just crazy, but in the best way possible. And I definitely had the tension headache of life afterward, but it was 1000% worth it, and I'd gladly endure it over and over again because I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for my thrones. But that being said, let's get into the episode. First, I want to talk about the Fellowship of the North. I love seeing all of these power players together, and I thought that it might happen last season with everyone in the Riverlands, but this is 100% better, and I'm happy that it's going down this way. One of the more touching moments, I thought, came when Jon tried to return Longclaw to Ser Jorah, and they start off talking about Jorah's father, Jeor, and the awful manner in which he died. Then Jon tries to give the sword back, saying it had been in the Mormont family for centuries, but Jorah doesn't accept it because of the shame he brought upon his house, and Jorah tells Jon that it's his, wishing the blade bring Jon good fortune and bring fortune to Jon's children after him. Which is ironic because Jon's children will probably come from Daenerys, whom Jorah loves desperately but can't be with. But I digress. Now, my personal favorite interaction and probably favorite moment of the episode came from Tormund and the Hound. These two need a reality show. I live for them. They were so awesome together, and I hope we get to see more of them at some point. And I mean, just the way they started off was hilarious. You've got Tormund coming over, looking to push the Hound's buttons with that devious grin, and he says, "You're the one they call the dog." And in typical Sandor Clegane fashion, the Hound tells him to fuck off, and seeing that he's under the Hound's skin, Tormund just keeps it going. And he said, "They told me you were mean. Were you born mean, or do you just hate wildlings?" And again, being his melodramatic self, the Hound says, "I don't give two shits about wildlings. It's gingers I hate." And Tormund goes on pushing the Hound's buttons. Tormund learns what the word dick means and says he prefers pussy. Then he starts talking about Brienne. And I couldn't stop laughing at this part because we see that Tormund's got their entire life planned out, talking about how he wants to have babies with her, how the babies will be monsters that conquer the world. But then he admits that they aren't even together yet, but he sees the way Brienne looks at him, so it's gotta just be a matter of time, right? This was just so stinking cute to me because Tormund is this fearsome, badass warrior, but he's a total teddy bear on the inside. And I actually think that Brienne is the exact same way, which is why I love these two together, and I hope the show follows through with this. And Tarthsbane isn't an essential plot point, but the show threw it in the mix and has teased it so much that it kind of has to happen, or else it would be sloppy storytelling. So I definitely ship this relationship 100%, and I hope that the show sticks to it and we get to see it at some point. The last interaction from the Fellowship I want to talk about was Jon and Tormund because something really significant comes from it. Tormund asks Jon about the Dragon Queen, and Jon says Daenerys will only fight with them if Jon bends the knee. Then Tormund tells Jon that he's spent too much time around the free folk and doesn't like kneeling anymore. Tormund also wisely points out that Mance was a good, proud man who was also a king, but a lot of his people died due to that pride and unwillingness to bend the knee. And I actually think this is what gets Jon to decide to bend the knee to Daenerys later on, which is a huge decision and will impact the entire story going forward. Which leads me to my next highlight of the episode, the evolution of Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen's relationship. Some people think this is fan service, but ever since Daenerys got a vision in the House of the Undying of a blue flower growing from a chink in a block of ice with sweetness in the air, I felt it was always George's intent for Jon and Dany to be together. When Jon thanked Daenerys for agreeing to fight with him and called her Dany, and she intimated that Dany is what her brother called her and she therefore didn't like it, Jon says, "All right, not Dany. How about my queen? I'd bend the knee, but..." And Dany then responds by asking about the Northmen, and Jon says they will come to see her for what she is. Tearfully, Dany says she hopes she deserves it, and they grasp each other's hand, and Jon tells her she does. After some prolonged eye contact, Dany attempts to withdraw her hand, but Jon squeezes it, forcing it to stay in his. Now, the common interpretation of this is that Jon's telling Dany he will bend the knee to swear fealty, but to me, that was an unofficial proposal of marriage, and I think Dany got that vibe too, and that's why she teared up. Dany saying she hopes she deserves it was Dany's way of telling Jon she hopes she'll be a good wife. The timing of this supports the idea of a proposal as well. All in one episode, Tyrion raises the issue of Dany naming an heir. Jorah tells Jon to keep Longclaw and give it to his, meaning Jon's children. And Dany tells Jon that the dragons are the only children she can have. It's just so obvious. You could even take this back to Season 6, Episode 10, when Dany dumps Daario, saying she'll need to make alliances when she goes to Westeros, and the best way to make an alliance is with marriage. Daario asks who she'll marry this time, and Dany says she doesn't know. Moments later, Tyrion consoles Dany and tells her Daario was not the first to love her, and he won't be the last. So it would seem that the show has been foreshadowing this marriage for quite a long time, and I don't see it as fan service at all. My next highlight is Aria versus Sansa. I'm going to keep this brief because I will do a separate video devoted solely to this topic, but I want to say that I've loved everything Aria says to Sansa because she is 100% correct. Now, I don't think Aria was going to kill Sansa here, though I wouldn't have minded if she did. I just think Aria was trying to suss out information from Sansa, and she got everything she needed. It's very telling when Sansa takes credit for the Battle of the Bastards and tells Aria that she should be on her knees and that they're at Winterfell because of her, that the Knights of the Vale rode north for her, that Jon lost the battle and it was her that saved the day, etc. This really just shows how disloyal to her house Sansa is, which is what I think Aria was trying to prove this whole time. If Sansa were loyal, she wouldn't be all about her saying her family should be on their knees thanking her. She'd just be grateful that her ancestral seat was reclaimed, period. It's also worth noting that Sansa said Jon lost the battle, but it was won once the Knights of the Vale showed up and Sansa brought them north. I've been saying it for a year now, and I've been crucified for it, but Sansa proved my point that she brought them in once the battle was lost because she wanted to look like the savior and become queen in the north. Perhaps if Jon had known about the Knights of the Vale sooner, the battle strategy would have been different, but Sansa didn't tell Jon because she wanted to get the credit. I couldn't think of a more disloyal person to their house than Sansa. She proves that she doesn't give a fuck about her family in another scene, too. Sansa goes snooping on Aria, going through Aria's things, and when Aria catches her, Sansa's first instinct is to threaten her sister by saying she's got hundreds of men at Winterfell loyal to her. Like, what the fuck? You're gonna threaten your sister like that when you're the one that's in the wrong? Sansa is just the literal worst, and I cannot wait until she dies, and I am hoping that sooner rather than later because I am so sick of her shit. The next highlight I want to touch on is the return of everyone's favorite uncle, Uncle Benjen Stark. I've been looking forward to a Jon Benjen reunion forever, and it finally happened, and though it was fleeting, I'll take it. I've always been disappointed that the show didn't further explore Jon and Benjen's relationship because I've always thought they had a special bond, and if I'm honest, when I first started the show and hadn't read the books yet, I thought Benjen was Jon's father. But anyway, add this to the list of long overdue reunions this season. Now, aside from the sentimental stuff, I was eager for Benjen's return because I think we can learn more about the undead from Benjen. Clearly, Benjen is different in that he talks, he retains his memories, and he keeps his sense of morality, meaning he's still fighting for the side of the living despite being dead. We've never seen him do this in close proximity to the Night King, so I wasn't sure if Benjen could still maintain that sense of self when he was close to the Night King. But it looks like Benjen had no problems because he was killing whites left and right, and he rescued his nephew, Jon. So this tells me that perhaps because Benjen was saved by the children before dying, that he isn't subject to the Night King's control, whereas if it was the Night King who had saved him, resurrected him, whatever, he would be subject to his control. So I suppose for those who like the theory that Jon will allow himself to be turned into a white similar to Benjen and fight the Night King's army from within his own ranks, the door has been opened. I personally don't think this will happen, and I still haven't seen enough to warm up to the idea, but it is a Song of Ice and Fire, so never say never, I guess. I definitely don't think we've seen the last of Uncle Benjen, but I have a gut feeling that when we do see him again, he will be a full-fledged White Walker, and one of the Starks, most likely Jon, will have to kill him, and that will be super sad when it happens, but let me know what you think Benjen's fate will be. Will we see him as a White Walker? Will we see him as he is now? Or will we even see the good uncle at all? My last and final detail that I want to touch on is, of course, the death of Viserion and his subsequent resurrection. It was really sad to see, of course, and if you're like me and you have a soft spot for animals, this one was really tough, and I think in general we never want to see animals get hurt. But the cycle of the odds shifting to a new person's favor has been interesting to watch play out. Cersei gets one up on Dany by having Euron smash Yara's fleet, and then she has Highgarden sacked and steals the Tyrell gold. But then Dany gets one up on Cersei by destroying the Lannister army and burning the goods from Highgarden. And now the Night King betters his odds by killing a dragon and raising it to be an ice dragon. Which, if you're familiar with these books, then you know in this story, ice dragons are stronger than fire dragons. So shit's looking great for the Night King. But what I want to know is what you guys think this means for the show going forward. Will the Night King use frozen Viserion to bring down the wall? Can that even happen? Presumably, the Night King can just fly over the wall, so why would he need to destroy it? I know the popular idea is that the wall, or at least a portion of it by Eastwatch, will come down because Bran passed through after having been marked. But Bloodraven's cave is not the wall, so it may take more to bring it down, in my opinion. My thought is that the Night King will fly over the wall and the Whites will climb up it, similar to how they climbed up the Fist of the First Men to ambush the Night's Watch back in the beginning. This idea is supported by text from the books as well. In A Dance with Dragons, on page 769, Jon Snow has the following dream. Burning shafts hissed upward, trailing tongues of fire. Scarecrow brothers tumbled down, black cloaks ablaze. Snow, an eagle cried, as foemen scuttled up the ice like spiders. Jon was armored in black ice, but his blade burned red in his fist. As the dead men reached the top of the wall, he sent them down to die again. To me, this suggests that the Whites will crawl up and over the wall versus going through it, but I want to know what you all think. Let me know down in the comments. And there you go, folks, my reaction to Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. I don't normally do these sorts of videos, but this episode was so awesome, I felt compelled. We finally got to see my favorite moment from the trailer, which was Beric Dondarrion light up his sword. It gives me chills every time. We see that the Hound was more accurate, interpreting fire visions on his first try than Melisandre has been this entire story. We've seen the Night King get a dragon. We saw Jon and Daenerys' bond solidify, among so many other great moments. All in all, Beyond the Wall was a great episode, and I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as me. I am Ashley of Naath. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and join my Khalasar. As I always do, I'm shouting out Jim Young, Cameo, Lady Olenna Tyrell, and Lady De Winter. Your continued support means everything to me. I hope everyone watching has a fantastic day, and I'd like to wish 7 blessings to you all.